Now, it's no longer uncommon for people to decide to climb Everest, dangerous as it is. It's rare you hear of anyone going down into the deepest part of the ocean. Vanessa O'Brien has done both and has become the first woman in the world to reach the highest point on the Earth and the Challenger Deep, the deepest known point on the Earth's seabed. Vanessa, what prompted this desire to go to extremes on the Earth?
Hi, good morning, Jenny. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Very good, thank you. So it's an excellent question. I think it's the desire to explore, and I guess first is to define exploration a little bit for the audience. By the time I was born, really almost everything had already been explored, meaning that all those 8,000 meter peaks had been summited, all the the moon was walked, the deepest oceans were already explored. So for someone like myself, there wasn't much left to do first.
How easy was it to prepare for climbing Everest?
Well, you do have to prepare, meaning that you have to arrive in the best physical shape that you possibly can. But what's unique about Everest versus a different mountain is that it's the high altitude. So you really have to start to understand the physiology, understand acclimatization, how the body builds red blood cells, and why when you take one step, it's 5 breaths. That's what makes the high altitude climbing different than, say, regular hill walking or, walking just anywhere up to 5,000 meters.
So what was it like when you actually got there?
So at the very, very top, when you become a mountaineer, there's a mindset that says, I'm only halfway. Because as much as 85% of deaths happen on descent. So it's pounded into your head, you must get down, you must get down, you must get down. So it's really only in Hollywood movies that you see this hooray, this big, jumping on the top and, these big high fives. It's more likely that people arrive and they're knackered and, looking at the watch, maybe taking that, summit photo, if their cameras work. Most times the cameras don't work.
But what are you seeing around you when you're at the top? I mean, that must be deeply impressive.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, well, if you get a good summit day. So, not all summit days happen at the right time where it's that beautiful, breaking dawn, and that there's not cloud cover, right? So that's, hit or miss. But if you get there and you have that beautiful breaking dawn with no cloud cover, you are in for the most magical treat. And that is just an outstanding view of just the most magical, majestic mountains below you.
Now, having got to the highest point, let's go to the lowest point. Why did you want to go to the deepest ocean?
Well, to some degree, I saw the oceans as almost the inversion of the mountains. I mean, interestingly enough, they're both created by plate tectonics. So in one way, the plates slide under each other and create this uplift we see on the top of Earth. But in another way, through subduction, they're also creating these trenches under the ocean. So many, many mountains are measured from a base that sometimes we can't see, artificially, and sometimes the bases are measured from what we can see, above the ocean floor. But there haven't been many manned vehicles that can actually take you down to the deepest ocean depths. There's the first one was in 1960, and that was one time only, and the vehicle was destroyed. The second came in 2012, if you can imagine the difference in time between 1960 and 2012. And that was one time only, vehicle destroyed. It wasn't until 2019 that a vehicle existed to go to deep ocean depth that could actually repeat the voyages.
And what was it like to be so deep? What could you see when you were down there?
So first, I should say that deep ocean depth, that's 10,900 meters, almost 11,000 meters, deeper than Everest is tall. It's completely dark. So that might not surprise anyone, but you can put lights on, and when we're surveying the bottom, we do have lights on. What you can see is something that looks like a little bit of volcanic sediment, but to the human eye, it looks like sand, right? It looks almost like the moon, like you've landed on the moon underwater without the craters, but just like sand. But underneath that sand, there are little tiny creatures moving. And because the pressure is so great, this is 8 tons of pressure, 16,000 pounds per square inch. Some say 292 jumbo jets stacked on top of each other. They don't need eyes. They don't necessarily have, vertebrae, but they're still organisms that are alive and, part of the sea food chain, if you will. So they're really, really incredible. It's called the Haddle Zone. And this is a specific part of science that people study just about this part of the ocean and the creatures that live and evolve down there.
Well, Vanessa O'Brien, I'm immensely impressed by, I think, your courage. Thank you very much indeed for joining us this morning. And I suspect you may be doing more of this sort of thing. Thank you very much indeed.